For most of us, the concept of an army conjures up images of death and destruction, war and grief. These images contradict the peaceful, loving world that Judaism teaches we must strive to create. In fact, the prophet Isaiah tells us that when mankind reaches the Messianic age, nation will not lift up sword against nation, and neither will they learn war anymore. Why then did the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a man whose entire life was dedicated to creating this ideal world, choose to call his children's organization the Army of God? What virtues can we learn from an army? And how do they apply to our own personal mission in the world? We will now join Mrs. Shimona Zukernik, international lecturer and founder of OMEC, a nonprofit organization dedicated to in-depth transformational learning, to discuss the spiritual battles that each of us fight and the positive lessons we can take from the concept of an army.
Hi. We spoke last time about the Rebbe's 12 passages, which we call 12 passages for personal growth, whether it is I'm going to be educating my children or young people that I know, or a means of re-educating my own inner child. And we explored a little bit the talk that had been spoken to the children, introducing them to this notion that I have two very opposite dimensions, a part of me that is egocentric and selfish, delusional, and a part of me that has absolute value, irrespective of what I do, of my function, of my utilitarian value. It's an essential value that I carry. Some of us may wonder, though, why is it that the Rebbe would call an organization the Army of God? Okay, wonderful, there are these 12 passages, but why do we have to call it an Army of God? Don't armies have negative connotations? And the Rebbe said, I thought long and hard about what this generation needs, and my understanding is that it needs this ability to give over to authority, bittul or kabbalat all, that I accept the authority of someone else. Now, it doesn't mean that Judaism doesn't encourage individuality and innovation. Of course it does. We've brought forth, on a constant basis, our education is doing that. But what we are saying in this generation, which is the me generation, iPhones and iTunes and YouTube, and each one of us is the person of the year according to Time magazine. In such a climate where individuality and the value of individualism is paramount, it's useful to inculcate into the youth that we're trying to educate that there is a notion of authority. One has to accept that authority, but there is such a thing as authority. It doesn't mean, you're going to give yourself over like a mindless person to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. In this case, the general is God, and we are surrendering ourselves to His will. That I want to know if I can make space for my Creator, if I can set aside some of my own ego, then I will, and in a very disciplined, surrendering kind of way, then, ironically, I'm able to access and tap into the deepest individuality that is inside of myself. It's not by fighting for my own individualism that my fullest and truest self becomes manifest. In various talks, the Rebbe stressed to the children that there are ways in which this army of God is similar to other armies and ways in which it is very different from other armies. So an army requires that one be vigilant of every border at all times. So too in our own internal selves. Each one of us has a northern, southern, western, and eastern side. And actually, these sides correspond to the patriarchs and the matriarchs. We have 4 mothers, we have 3 fathers, but the 4th over there is counted as David HaMelech, King David. So there are 4 couples that correspond to the 4 sides of our being, northwest, south and east. How does this work? The southern side of a person, which actually is associated here with the right of a person, that southern side in Hebrew south is called darom, and it's connected with the word dror, freedom, that we are calling out, I want freedom. In fact, we are told that when God told Abraham, go and find yourself, go out from your father's house and your country, etc., from your birthplace, to the land that I will show you. He doesn't specify where he had to go, and Abraham knew that he had to travel southward. So there is this southern side, and in Tanya the Alter Rebbe explains to us that this ventricle, this right ventricle of the heart, is connected. It is the domain of the godly soul, that the seat of our godly consciousness is in our mind, in our brain, but we also have godly consciousness that rests in our heart, in the right ventricle of the heart. And that's where we get this communication between mind and heart at the level of our higher self, the godly self, the godly soul. Then we have the left ventricle of the heart, or the left side of the body. Now, generally, this side is associated with that which is hidden. In fact, the word for north in Hebrew is tzafon, and tzafon means hidden. Like in Pesach, during the Seder, we have tzafon is when you hide the afikomen, or you put away the afikomen. So in Tanya, the left side of the heart is associated as the domain where the animal soul resides. That's the seat of my passions and of my anger or rage. I have feelings of all flavors, and in its godly component and its unholy manifestation are in the heart, but slightly different. There are these two ventricles in the heart. Now, associated with this northern flank is Yitzchak. It doesn't mean, God forbid, we're not suggesting that Isaac, our father, is associated with evil in any way, but he's associated with that which is hidden, this left side. So we have Abraham and Sarah, who epitomizes loving kindness on the right, and Rebecca and Isaac on the left. And we see that Isaac's life was one that was very hidden. He dug wells. He was moving into the realm of that which was more hidden. Then we have the eastern side, and this is associated with our father Jacob and also his wife Leah. And this Tiferes, Mizrach, in Hebrew, the word for east is Mizrach, from the word zerach, to shine, that's where the sun comes up. I see the sun coming up and there's radiance and beauty in my life. It also corresponds, Yaakov, Jacob, corresponds to an attribute of harmony or beauty that is associated with this rising of the sun. And he's very much connected with the study of Torah. Leah, his wife, is also connected with consciousness, thought, whereas his wife, Rachel, is more connected with speech. But Leah is connected with the study of Torah, with thought, and a higher consciousness. And then we have the fourth component, which is Ma'ariv, the fourth dimension, the west. And Ma'ariv, the word Ma'ariv in Hebrew is connected to the word Erev, which is the setting of the sun, evening. That's where the sun goes down. And this is connected with King David and Rachel, and we are told the Shekhinah, God's presence, is in the west. It's associated, even today, the Western Wall, the Kotel in Jerusalem, is a place where we have the Shekhinah, God's presence, residing, and Jews go there from all over the world. This is one place that we still have in this world that I can attach myself in that unique kind of way. Shekhinah b'Ma'ariv, the Shekhinah is in the West. And in fact, the letters that make up the word West, Ma'ariv in Hebrew, are the first letters from the phrase Rachel mevaka al baneha. Rachel weeps, cries for her children. It's not in the same order, but those are the letters. If you take the first letter from each of those words, you can form the word west, that Rachel is crying for her children and she is connected with King David. So the Rebbe then takes these concepts and says to the children, and he's saying to us, if I want to be successful in my life, in this battle between my lower self, my lower consciousness, and my higher self, my true self and true identity, I have to fight a battle. It could be that one day I feel lazy. I don't feel like doing a kindness in the way that Abraham did kindness, or Sarah did kindness. I see someone who needs some charity. I don't feel like giving it. Or another day comes along and I say, I'm tired. I'm going to just skip praying today, etc. Or I'm low on funds. I don't think I'm going to give charity. Or I don't know that I'm going to be studying to the extent that I want. These are these 4 quadrants: acts of kindness and learning, studying, being disciplined inside of ourselves. So the message to the children and to us is, there's no ways that someone can say, I'm going to be working on X and I'm going to disregard everything else. Yes, I can be focusing on it. This could be, most of my troops, most of my efforts and my energy are going to fighting this battle, but I can't disregard everything else. If I'm working on learning more, I'm going to be going to such and such a class. I'll make sure to log on over here or open this book, etc. I'm going to be disciplined every day and learn more than I'm used to, more than my comfort zone. That's great, but I can't let go of the other areas and the other quadrants of my life. And at the same time that a Jewish army, this army of God, is similar to other armies, it's also very different. And the primary difference that the Rebbe points out to the children is that the army of people, human armies, unfortunately, fight with guns and they bring about death. They're weapons of destruction. Yeshayahu, Isaiah the prophet, says that we will beat our swords into plowshares. There's going to be a time where all the money that is spent on the military is actually spent on health and growth, the environment, truth, learning, serving our Creator. I once read that the government spends $1 million a minute on the military. I mean, that's very palpable if you think about $1 million a minute on goodness and truth and funding learning, education, healing for people. So our vision is not that we're going to be keeping up with the swords, but that we want to shift it to plowshares. And what we have to know is my battle is fought not with physical weapons, God forbid, not with physical might, but with spiritual weapons. And those are the weapons of Torah and mitzvahs, to take on studying, to take on prayer, to say psalms, to be kind to people, to do goodness, to put goodness out there in the world. This is the way that we fight our battles with the weapons of light.